Yeah, keep smiling.
I just keep, yeah.
Everything's perfect. You know that picture with the duck in the room of the fire. Yeah? Everything's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Zoom out just a little bit.
All right. So who's gonna read the questions? I suppose you, Bexi.
Yeah, I can do.
So maybe it's.
Oh, we're live. Thanks for the
Oh.
notice. Thanks for the notice, Maz. I've just noticed on the TV.
I was pink, not you.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Well,
Sorry.
hello, welcome everyone.
Hello.
This is a few of the European con people in this. I'll quickly introduce myself for anyone that doesn't know me. I'm Bexi, usually the events lead and volunteer co-lead and MC of UK PonyCon, the physical con. But for UK PonyCONLINE, all this online stuff, I've become the lead. So that's me. UK PonyCon's physical convention has actually been postponed to the 8th and 9th of May 2021 and is in Nottingham. So if I pass over to Griffish Isles, because that's the first one I see. If you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you. I don't know if everyone can see me, but I'm HypnoHooves and I'm the chair of Griffish Isles, which has run twice before in Manchester and has been delayed till this November, thanks to the current situation at this point in time. So I think we move over to the next one.
Yeah, who wants to go next?
Jamis told
Okay, why not? My name is Jamis. I'm chairman of Czech Westria Convention that's held in Prague since 2014. And Czech Westria is not happening this year, not because of the Corona situation, but because we are semi-annual. So we had a 2019, 2017. So you guess it. And the convention is held in English. So if you can speak English, you do not have to be afraid to come. Every pony is welcome.
Definitely on my to-do list next year when we can finally travel.
Yay!
Yes. Very
Steam
much so.
Loco. Steam Loco is new. I want to hear about Steam Loco.
Yes,
Well,
Steam Loco,
yes.
take it away.
Likewise.
I'm the new guy on this stage. Yes. Next year we'll have PonyCon Holland. We had a Dutch convention called Heartwarming Con, but they decided to stop, so we picked up the game. We have some experience in organizing meetups. When I say some, we have been doing that since 2011. I've been part of the team since 2018. And we decided to fill the gap next year. So there will be another convention in the Netherlands, and it will be held on June 5th and 6th in 2021. Okay.
And then we've got Perry.
Hi, I'm Perry. I'm the GalaCon stage host. I was the first 3 years, I was also one of the main staff members, mostly event stuff. So I have some experience with that, but right now, all the good stuff you've seen in the 3 years after, and other years after those 3 years was put on by other people. I just have the pleasure of presenting it to you on stages and talk a lot about it. Also, GalaCon was also postponed, since we're all talking about that. GalaCon was postponed. Not to be too sad, it is going to be on the 24th and 25th of July in 2021. So, it's the sort of thing in German we say, aufgeschoben ist nicht aufgehoben. That means, postponed isn't, canceled. That is exactly what we're not doing. We're not canceling anything. GalaCon is still happening next year. But maybe there will be something online, maybe?
Ooh, I can't wait to hear.
Tease. I'm just teasing, but who knows? You should follow us on Twitter.
So, this is just so we can talk to. We've got our question channel open, so feel free to put any questions. Ask us anything, within reason, please. Ask us anything. I've got the questions here. I'm not being antisocial. I'm on Discord because my laptop is with it quite far away. So yeah, feel free to ask us some questions, but we'll have a little bit of chat amongst ourselves. I'm going to ask each of you, you can turn it, what is your favourite convention memory? And Steam Loco, I know you've not run your convention yet, but what's your favourite memory from one of the meetups? And what's your favourite memory?
I think it was from the last meetup we were able to help because we were planning to have to do two, I guess, earlier this year, but obviously they couldn't go through. Well, the last big meetup was almost a small convention. We had all day of fun, all day full of events, even evening program with a dinner and DJs afterwards. And just the whole experience of that day was awesome. And yeah, I think that as a total was in the convention that we organized ourselves, probably the best experience ever.
Oh. Jamis, what's your favourite experience so far?
Oh, there are so many. It's hard to pick one. I'll pull out one of my favorites because I do not have absolute favorite. There are too many favorites, but one of the real favorites were GalaCon 2013, when Equestria Girls came out pretty freshly, and we decided as a group to come with a bus to the convention. We actually rented a bus, about 40 of us, and we made ears and tails, and outside of the convention hall of GalaCon, we just started to throw these dozens of tails and ears to various people and singing Helping Twilight Win the Crown. We've been walking there like twice around, and yeah, I think that's one of my favorite memories. Of course, all those hugs on the stages and these kind of crazy stuff, but this one was special because it was really big group of people enjoying together something we created.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I wish I was there
awesome.
to see it. Perry, what's your favorite?
Yeah, it's really like picking your favorite child. It just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. But I guess a lot of good ones. It's really impossible to choose one. But if I just pick one at random, it's probably every time where people just did something really cool that I didn't expect, because I expect people to be cool already, right? That's always fun. But when you go even further, then you expect, like, when people make a Fanta out of plush, like a huggable Fanta. Just like that exists now. It's just a thing that exists in part because of me. Or people just saying like the thing that Jamis just talked about, a bunch of people just coming together and organizing what's basically a flash mob and giving everyone ears and tails. It's stuff like that where you just think it's so cool. You put in that energy to make this happen. Nobody obligated you to, nobody asked you to. You just said, this is cool. We're going to do it. And people do it. That's what this fandom is all about to me. And that's every time that sort of thing happens, it's my favorite.
And Hypno, what's your favorite from GI?
Yeah, we say from GI, obviously I've got tons of different ones across the piece, and I think most chairs have their favourite experience while attendees of other conventions, because we're normally so busy running things. But I think I'd say at GI it was again, it was a surprise. It was seeing that someone had made a life-size plush of Miss Main when we had Ellie Ray along. And I knew nothing about this at all. As always, as anyone involved with convention tell you, to think that we know everything that's going on or everyone's done the things around the convention. I had absolutely no clue it was being made or it was there, etc. And then, of course, having to then try and stop Ellie Ray run off with the plush after the event. So I think that was perhaps my funnest event, if you know what I mean, at GI, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I remember seeing that plush and just going. And it was just epic. One of my favourite memories of con, actually, I've got Jamis to thank for, because during our music, our last theme was Ocean Adventures, and we have a music bit of the evening. And I remember I'm just stood at the top of the balcony and I looked down and there's all these people with sea ponytails just flapping in time to the music, and I was like, this is amazing. And everyone was like, did you know what's going on? I'm like, no, this is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And it just really, really brought like a bit extra to the music as well. So it was really, really lovely. So thank you, Jamis.
You're welcome. We had really a lot of fun with these sea ponytails at GalaCon and Czechwestria and at UK PonyCon, and yeah, we are thinking what we are going to do with them next.
Oh, the sea ponytails! I remember those.
They're just great. They're just really great.
Yeah, you, Steam Loco, you were part of that fun at the Czechwestria, right?
Yes, I was in the fountain with Ellie Ray in the Rainbow Dash sea pony costume.
Oh wow!
I'm not sure we are allowed to show the pictures of that.
I think she shared that on the Twitter, so you're definitely allowed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, feel free to pop it if you've got it to hand. Pop it in the stage so people can see it. We've got some questions coming in. So from Eunice, how do locals? This is directed to mostly Steam Loco, Jamis, and Perry. How do locals feel about conventions in the like of Germany, Holland, Czech Republic, etc., being held in English?
Jamis, you go first because you discussed this before, and I think it's a good point to discuss.
Yes, we've been thinking for quite a long time in the beginning if we are going to hold the convention in local language or in English. In the end, we decided to hold it in English because we wanted to make the international. It was actually the first attempt in our country to do such an event in English language. And even though that we are receiving from time to time some complaints that it's in Czech Republic, so it should be in Czech, I think it was one of the best decisions we made to make it in English because it helped to connect the Czech fandom to fandoms of other countries, not just English-speaking countries. But now we have like 60% people from Czech Republic and Slovakia and 40% of people from other countries, which I think it's really amazing. So locals are sometimes, not so comfortable with it, but that's just a minority.
Loco should go next.
Okay. Yeah.
Concern for you.
I think people are used to it by now. They expect to have the meetups and the conventions in English because, well, a lot of people in our community aren't Dutch, even in our Dutch community. So we talk in English most of the time. Yeah.
The thing is that with GalaCon, we planned it from the start because we figured, okay, Germany is kind of in the middle of Europe. Like it's relatively easy to get to for everyone, it's kind of equally distant. So we figured from the start it would be smart to position it as a convention in English exactly to make it more accessible, and that ended up working out. So that's a good thing, and I think it's okay for most Germans. Like I get the problem, language barriers are never fun, but I think for most of them it was okay because they figured not only does it make it more accessible, but most Germans watch the show in English already. Sometimes with German subtitles made by fans or something, but people are used to assessing the fandom in English. So I don't think the leap was too big. And I think for most people, it's understandable. I think that works.
Yeah. I think what's really amazing whenever I've traveled to mainland Europe for a convention as well is everyone's from everywhere. Like you don't just get people at GalaCon, you don't just get people who live in Germany, you get people from everywhere. Like heart's warming. There were so many people from everywhere, and it just, it's just such a travelled fandom with all the cons really.
Bronies travel.
Yeah. How ponies will travel.
You make a very good point about the show being in English, Perry, because they did bring out the Dutch translation of the show, but it's horrible. So I think 95% of the Dutch fans watch it in English anyway. So we're used to it.
Yeah, it was similar here. So many people complained about the Czech voiceover of the show that there, we heard so many voices that I'm watching the show only in English because Czech translation is terrible, and blah blah blah. And now, so okay, you watch the show in English, you can understand it. So here you have it, a convention in English. You want
Yeah.
it, you get it.
It makes sense. Like the German dub is okay. And I mean, it's great for the kids because it is still a kids show. Let's be honest, it's good for kids who don't speak English yet to be able to still see the show and, maybe check it out later when they're older in English. But for us who have the benefit of being able to watch it in English, there's really not a lot of hurdle, I think, to having a convention in English too.
So next is a question from Brace. Do you think online conventions / events / meetups will continue after lockdown ends, assuming that it ever ends? Who would like to start?
I think I better start that to give everyone else a chance to have a little bit of a rest, I think, after the previous question. Well, let's be realistic. Online conventions have existed in the pony community for a while. There's HypnoHooves, for example, which was the ponies at home activities, which were done previously. And a lot of the fandom started with people being online. A lot of people have got more interested in video technology and communications, are more savvy and more interested to do it. So I think, yes, conventions will move a lot online. I suspect some will continue. I don't expect them to be occurring every weekend, which appears to be the current cycle that we've got at the moment. But I do think that people will want to meet up. And I do think you may end up with a hybrid conventions coming forward in the future where there's an online element and there's also an in-person element as well. So I think that is something that you will see coming out in the future. So that's just my take on it.
Who wants to go next?
Yeah, I think the online conventions will continue, maybe not in such a scale like they are now, and they will be more focused on the things that can be done online, and it will for sure have its audience because not everyone is, let's say, assertive enough to go to the convention. Just like that, there are still a lot of bronies who just do not hurt in the real life, so they will continue watching these and enjoying these online events. But maybe there will be a little bit of diversification. So conventions in the real life will do more the things that are good when you meet in person, and online conventions will do more the things that you can do online.
Yeah, I think so too, because online conventions have, to me, been an exciting new venture where you can kind of figure out new things about conventions you couldn't do in person. I did my first online auction a bit ago, and it was very different, but it had a good energy too. It was a different energy, but it was good. It was fun. So I think there are things you can translate. There are things that don't translate so well from meet space to online space. But I think not in the same capacity, but I think once the lockdown is over, we will still see a bit more online energy because people have seen it can be done, and that tends to be inspiring. When we can do this, we can put something together that entertains people for a day, like a meetup or a convention could similarly, not exactly the same, but similarly. So I'm excited about online stuff, and I really want this to be a thing still, even if it's less, but still great. That's still awesome to me.
Probably they will continue to exist, but people are craving to meet up with each other again. I've noticed. So
that's for sure. That's for sure.
I'll be really happy if it can go back to normal for whatever given value of normal that will be in the future. Yes, let's go back to the normal conventions at least, and have a couple of online conventions. Maybe not every week, but every month,
yes,
or every 2 months. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I like this is UK PonyCon's usually in October. We've done this in June. I had to think what month we were in because we wanted to prepare for when, if this is well received, that we've given us a big amount of time to be able to work on and improve things for if we did a whole weekend for the weekend that UK PonyCon was meant to be. But it's actually kind of nice as well working on an online con and like, well, a physical con as well. Just purely because it's two, as Perry's saying, it's different things. It's really interesting how different people come together and come to different ones. Like I know the Discord server that we're in has got so many people that wouldn't come to a physical UK PonyCon, but they're watching here and they're able to watch here. So that's absolutely amazing. So it's definitely something I'd consider in the future. But yeah, I think they're going to keep going as well. I should really turn off sleep on my phone. Another one for Steam Loco, Perry and Jamis. Europe has so many languages. How do you maintain the main language in English? Because some of the attendees don't know English. What are the tips for maintaining it in English language?
Tips. Well, when you do it in English, it's in English. Of course, not everything can be translated. You still have a lot of people who are talking to each other in their native language. Of course, it's when two Czech persons come together, they speak in Czech to each other. But the important thing about this is that every part of program is accessible in English language. Not every time it's so easy. For example, we invite the Czech voice actors who are voicing My Little Pony, and some of them does not speak English, so we need to translate the panels. But it's still somehow accessible to everyone. And the thing is that you do not have to push the language too much. You know, some of the things like the web pages, the basic info you have in both languages. And when somebody who comes and does not know English, you can always have the staff that mostly speak both languages. So they can, assist in any way it's necessary. That's it. Keeping it in English, it's like, okay, let's just say that you have to say that aloud during the promotion of the convention, so everyone knows. And even if people who does not understand English, they can still enjoy a lot of activities like the karaoke, DDR, workshops, and even some panels. So that's it.
Yeah, I think it's not too challenging because people, like Jamis said, obviously can still talk to each other in whatever language they're most comfortable with. And you can, for instance, as indicators which language you speak, you can bring stickers for your badge that show, hey, I speak these languages. That's a fun option just to make it easy, to make it accessible. It's just, I think, since English is kind of, whether we like it or not, kind of the most commonly spread language that people can tend to agree on as a commonly spread language. Obviously, there's many languages that are popular and widespread. It's just English is kind of a lingua franca, as people call it. I think it tends to be mostly okay. And when you have issues, you usually, there's a staff member, there's a volunteer, there's someone who can help. And there's no hesitation. If you have problems, don't hesitate to ask. Don't hesitate to ask someone if you need instructions in a different language. Since, as we just established, we come from all over the place, there's usually no shortage of people who can help.
I agree. As I said before, most people are pretty much used to speak English. People pretty much live online these days, so English is the go-to language in pretty much every occasion. And we never really had any trouble with English at our meetups. And I think most people who attend conventions are expecting to speak English, at least at the panels or the workshops or everything. I can't remember having any trouble with people who couldn't understand what we were saying or couldn't follow the panels. So I think we're good.
Fab.
There is maybe one more element to this. If there are people, a lot of people in the community that does not speak English, we have, let's say, kind of solution for that. that Czechwestria is not the only event we organize per year. We have a winter karaoke party in December that's held in Czech. And so everyone who does not speak English and does not want to go to Czechwestria because he or she is afraid of the language barrier, they always have other ways how to join the community activities. So it works. And even on the winter karaoke, where it's like 170 people there, our friends from Germany coming, even though they do not speak Czech. So,
so next question is for Steam Loco. So everyone knows about Britannia. Everyone knows about Bobby. Everyone knows about Miss Labusa, if I pronounce that right. And
Yep.
everyone knows about Canny. Please introduce us to Waffles.
Well, here he is.
Cute.
So tell us a little bit about Waffles.
Okay. Well, we came up with the idea from maybe this will work better. I have a small painted one. We did not have a community OC, and I think about this time last year we decided we needed one. So I made a couple of designs, and we picked this one because it does have the Dutch flag in it with red, white, and blue. Our national animal, if you could say that way, is a lion. So I gave him the liony mane. And of course, one of our national trees is a stroopwafel, which is a waffle with syrup, two waffles with syrup in between them.
Delicious.
So we had the cutie mark, and well, that's how we came together. Funny story, by the way, when we introduced him at our 25th meetup, nobody knew about this, just the organizers of the meetup. So we were sitting in front of the entire room, and we showed the first pictures of Waffles, and everyone was very excited by it. But what my fellow organizers did not know is that I had already made the plush.
Nice.
So yes, the first introduction was already with the plushie, and it has already been the PlushieCon, of course.
Oh,
Was very important.
Yep.
I'm going to follow on from that question. How did everyone else's convention get their mascots?
Good one.
If you know, just feel free to just say they just appeared. But how did everyone get theirs?
Griffish Isles is like the one convention here that doesn't have a pony as a mascot, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about
Indeed.
that.
Well, it's based on the name, obviously, because we went with Griffish Isles as the title for it, given its appears allegedly on the map of Equestria, maybe. And we therefore decided to go with that. And therefore, well, it's logical to have a griffin. So many people have, shall we say, pony mascots. We thought we'd go for a little bit different. And so therefore, the decision was made to go for that. And also, of course, to the name, Bobby, and obviously the police helmet logo and everything else was named for the British culture. So the idea was to project something unique into the formation of Bobby as a character. So to make Bobby a bit unique. So just to make sure it's not a pony character. So it's also to break the mold, if you know what I mean, of just being a pony OC. So that was the reason for Bobby. So a bit unique in terms of history.
Jammies.
Okay,
Someone asked about
Perry.
Miss Libusa, so you should explain.
Well, I think, Perry, you know already because you are actually the voice of Miss Libusia. I'm not sure how many people knows, but yeah. If you ever heard Miss Libusia speaking, it was Perry. Well,
Shock.
Yeah, for some people, definitely, yes. Especially the guy who's fursuiting Miss Libusia. Yeah, but that's another story.
Yes, tell us how she came to be.
Yeah, how she came to be. Miss Libusia is actually based on the mythical figure of Duchess Libusia from the legend of founding the Prague. So we wanted her, in the pony form because Miss Libusia is actually a mascot of the Prague and of Czechwestria. So we wanted to tie it to this legend. So in 2013, when we've been preparing the first big meetup, we put out the competition. So people were sending different forms of her, of Miss Libusha, how she is going to look like. And then we, in the organizers team, we voted which form we are going to choose. It was pretty close. I think it was 15 to 14 for the current form. So this is how she looks like. Her main are the colors of the Prague. Her cutie mark is the astronomical clock, which is one of the most iconic symbol of the city. So many people who come here are going to visit the astronomical clock. And yeah, that's pretty it. Yeah, she's over here. And yeah, that's pretty it. Yeah. I'm just being attacked by, mascots. Oh, come on. All right, yeah, she also has the backstory. You can read it on the web page. Yeah, that's pretty it. She's a unicorn and playful and everything.
And now I wish I had like a bunch of Kani plushies here, but I don't. Whoops.
I actually do have one behind me.
So you're showing me up here. This is like shameful, Perry. Shameful display, Perry. But no, Kani came to be, which is in a kind of a funny way. The very first GalaCon was not hosted in the same place that GalaCon is hosted now, which is Ludwigsburg. It was originally in Stuttgart, and we weren't sure in which area exactly of Stuttgart it was going to be. And there's an area, I'm not quite sure, I'm horribly showing my lack of knowledge about the south of Germany right now. But the area, I think this is a part of Stuttgart or right outside Stuttgart. One of those two things. Not quite sure. But Kani's name and design was based on Bad Cannstatt, which is, I think, again, a place in the vicinity of Stuttgart. And we had her design based on that because for the longest time it looked like GalaCon was going to be hosted there specifically. So Kani has a little tea can, Kanne, as we say in German, as a cutie mark. Her name is Kani, and we just want her to be cute. So she's cute, has little freckles, the whole thing. And that's really just kind of it. It started as just a basic thing that we thought maybe she serves tea to people. Maybe because Bad Cannstatt, I think, is known for its healing springs, or it's like it's ancient, bath where I think maybe it goes back to the Romans. Again, my lack of knowledge is showing. I'm so sorry. I'm all the way from the north. I don't know these things. I'm a horrible, ignorant northern person. But I think there's like the healing springs in the area, and we thought maybe Kani hosts people there, and it kind of evolved from there that she likes hosting parties in general and just likes hosting people, and it just kind of her story developed from there. Now she's the fun-loving, bezamming goofball that we all know and love, with her sister Sani and her husband Wachmann, who are just the helpful staff ponies who help her make sure everyone is healthy and safe. And here's a myth I need to dispel. I do voice Miss Libusha, which is a pleasure to do. She is a lovely, lovely being, very classy, very wonderful. But I do not voice Kani. A lot of people think I voice Kani because I kind of look like her. I mean, not right now. My hair is Corona-inducedly horrible. Corona haircuts, everybody. But usually I have a similar hairstyle and a similar hair color, and I think people think that I voice her. I don't voice her. She is voiced by the wonderful Gabby, who's also known as Serena Midori on Tumblr and Twitter. You should check her out. She is fantastic. She brings a lot of life to Kani. It's not me. Please, it's so lovely when people say, "Oh, you do so good voicing Kani." It's like, oh, I feel so bad because it's not me. Shower Gabby with love. She deserves it.
So, Britannia, this is one of the giant plushies we usually have on the stage. But we rescued her from the storage unit yesterday. I still haven't got the G3 one out of the bag yet, but we've got Britannia in various different forms. So this is her G4 form. I'm just gonna have to hold her like this. I have literally had to walk around Nottingham like this. There goes my headset.
Britannia knocked it off. What a silly pony.
I was so excited about telling this story, I hit my headset off. I've had to walk around Nottingham like this, and everyone's like, don't you want to just put her in a bin bag? And she was in a black bin bag. I was like, I think I'm going to be more suspicious walking around Nottingham with a giant black bin bag than just a pony. And thing is, though, we were there on a venue visit, and people were like, oh, UK PonyCon, and I'm like, yeah. So it was great to see it, like, actually having people come up to us. So Britannia came from, so she's been around several years. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head. And her design was from a fan competition, and then that's how Britannia was born. So she's actually been in the committee longer than I have as well. But I don't know the exact dates. I know her original design was in G4, so it's got to be at least 2010. But I'm sure if Archer is watching this, she'll pop the dates in. If not, I'll ask Archer later on and I'll put the dates. But yes, this is how we got Britannia, the one we all know and love. I need to put her down. It's because she's very heavy. She can sit there.
I have the original main drawing for Stroopwaffeltje for waffles.
Oh,
Nice.
This is how it could have looked as well, but we decided not to go with these.
We had also
so
fun when we had
Toys.
also really a lot of fun when we've been introducing Miss Lebusha at the first big meetup we made. We wanted to make it surprise, for everyone, and we prepared the roll-ups and the banners and all that stuff. We wanted to do, the grand opening and grand show off. And after we let people in, and my vice chair Melgar came to me and said to me, we wanted to make that Miss Lebusha surprise, right? Yeah. So why we are giving people buttons at the entrance with her face? Like, oh shoot.
oh wow. But
Happens.
your con OCs, like all our con mascots and everything, they just become a part of you, don't they? They just become like an adopted child, and yeah. And Britannia's now got her own Twitter account, so you can search for UKPC Britannia as well. So she's joined the realm of con mascots that got her own Twitter as well.
In fact, if you take a look, some of the mascots, if you type the names in on Google, get more hits than if you type the name of the convention in. I've noticed. I think, but same definitely with Bobby. I know again with Britannia, if you type it in Britannia Space Pony, you get more hits than UK PonyCon. So just to give an example. So I'm sure it's the same with the other conventions as well. I think they've got the community's taken the characters to heart.
We've currently with Britannia, because we're a multi-generation convention, we have got Britannia in every single G generation style of art as well. So that we're saving a lot of it for our physical convention to show off. But yes, we have every single different stages of her, and I think if it's not changed, our server icon as well is a G2 version of Britannia, which I really love people saying that she looks like she's in the Olympics. And that. I scroll past the thing. Pone Pete asked, who would be your dream guest?
Oh. That's so hard.
Yeah, I can go first if that helps you guys think. So UK PonyCon's not really had guests before, but we are having Kelly Sheridan coming in May. She's coming. We've managed to secure her to come in May, hopefully. And so Glim Glam was so high on my list. After seeing her energy at GalaCon, it was just brilliant. So I was so happy. Plus, she's also voiced other characters amongst the other generations. So it was really exciting to get someone who has done a lot of multi-generations, because that is UK PonyCon, all sorts of generations. My dream guest would be Tabitha St. Germain. I love Luna, I love Minty, and I love Rarity.
Minty, yes.
Well, when I took my singing plush to her and she signed it, it was so lovely.
Minty represent.
Oh, she's too cute. But yeah, that's my dream guest. Who's next? Who's ready to? I think we still have a lot of thinking going on.
No, I have several. It's a bit embarrassing because I think at this point it's like everyone is kind of over it, and especially it's a bit of a sore spot for the British fans. So it feels a bit bad to say it. But...
Yeah, go for it.
Go on.
Despite everything, even I don't agree with all the episode the character is in. Like, I don't love them all. I still want kind of would if I had the choice and it wasn't money and time wasn't an object, I would still want John Delancey to come.
Ooh.
It's a sore spot because he was going to go to Buck twice, and both times he couldn't make it. Like, both times he had to cancel. So I feel bad even saying this in the presence of like British pony people at this point, because it's like and here's the thing, I'm also a huge Star Trek fan, which is part of the reason why I think he'd be an awesome guest to have. And I've been to a British Star Trek convention 2 years ago, and apparently in that fandom the other guest that always cancels on the British conventions is Jonathan Frakes, who's also from Star Trek. So it's like, it feels like at this point asking for a person from Star Trek to come to the UK seems to be a difficult thing. So I feel bad just saying it. But no, all joking aside, I think he's just generally a class act. He has interesting stories to tell. He has a career that spanned ridiculous kinds of roles. And he'd just be cool to have. Well, he's great to talk to. He's a chill kind of guy. It's just, he's getting there in the age, and he doesn't love to travel to conventions that much anymore. So that's fair. I get that. It's just, if it could happen, I would still want.
Yeah, John Delancey is amazing. He was once in the Prague to meet with the Star Trek and pony fans. And yeah, it was amazing to meet with him. I'm sorry for you, Perry, that we did not let you know back then.
Oh, yes, ever since.
I'm a bit sorry you didn't find out he popped over to the UK in September to a Comic-Con in Scotland, a generic Comic-Con convention. And he was
I was told he was in Sweden. I wasn't told he was in Scotland.
He was in September in Glasgow. And it's worth noting that there's actually a video online you might find of some of the questions being asked. Half the questions asked from the audience were about My Little Pony, not Star Trek. So he ended up actually going off at it. Why am I getting all these questions? You know what I mean, on My Little Pony, etc. But yeah,
here's my request, just real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, but here's my honest request. He goes to a lot of these like smaller local like nerd conventions that I never hear about because I'm not from that country, and there's like a few hundred attendees at most. If he's scheduled to come to a local convention in your country, literally message me on Twitter. Do it, please. That is the easiest chance I have to actually like see him. And again, I don't hear about these things because it's usually really local conventions, because he just likes doing the chill stuff. He doesn't go to the big ones so much anymore, apparently. So if he's going to a local convention of yours, please, for the love of everything, message me, please. Thank you. Sorry. Please go on.
What you're saying, maybe at a smaller convention we do have a chance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do it. And if you hear about him going someplace, message me, please.
I will.
I'm desperate. No, not that desperate, but please let me know.
Yeah, I think it's worth noting that he's also involved in some other fandoms. So surprisingly, Doctor Who, for example, for his engagement on Torchwood, for example. If you take a look in those fandoms, though, they often maintain trackers of where the stars are going to different conventions, and that's often a good way to do that. But again, they favour certain fandoms, certain conventions, and let's be realistic. They often don't need the money. What they're after is an interesting time, if you know what I mean, many of the people doing it. So yes, they are open sometimes. You'd be amazed sometimes at the level of star who's willing to appear at a relatively small convention, such as My Little Pony conventions.
So.
Yeah, the favorite guests. Our dream guests. Hard to say. Of course, we received a lot of requests. Yeah, like we want to see Lauren Faust, but let's be realistic. That's not realistic for us. I think I have two, and it's more like not the dream guests, but the guests that fits Czechwestria. First is M.A. Larson. He was already online guest here, but he was not able to come in person. And the reason is that he's partially responsible for Czechwestria actually happening, because he convinced me and my vice chair to actually do it and invited himself in 2013. So that was one thing. And I think the dream guest now would be Andrea Libman, because we have also some infamous history with Andrea Libman in Czech Republic. And that means we would like to, repair the relationship between our fandom and her. So
Jamish, you need to tell you the story. You need.
yeah. 2013, we met Andrea Libman at GalaCon, and she said she's going to Prague. She's going to visit the city of Prague. So we said, "Oh, you're coming, so you definitely should come to our meetup." And she said, "Yeah, why not?" And then we've been discussing. We returned to Prague, and then it was like, that was just a polite response. It's not gonna happen. We had a discussion that, yeah, I'll give it that 10 to 15% that she will actually come. She come to a meetup when we sent her the pub where we were supposed to meet. And I was at the work and I was like, oh, I should not leave so early, but screw it, let's go. I wanna see her. I came to the pub and there were two guys just staring to the table. And I said, "So, hello guys. Did you met her? Do not ask." Like, what? Was she here? Do not ask. Like, what happened? Well, was she here? Yes, she was. And she left. Well, what? We did not recognize her. Like, are you crazy? It's Andrea Libman. You did not recognize her. And yeah, and she posted on the Twitter the picture, like in front of the pub, like, "Guys, I haven't found you, so I moved on." So we wrote a lot of apologies and stuff like that, and we've been thinking that this story is going, fade away in time. And at the last GalaCon, she was asked at the panel with VIP guests to share some interesting stories from the Brony conventions. And when Tabitha St. Germain talked about the hitting by tornado at the convention, Andrea Libman said, "Yeah, I've been to Prague to meet. I wanted to meet the fans, and they did not recognize me."
I remember that, yes.
Yeah, I was like, okay, eternal shame on us. And the next day, I think it was GM Barrow was asked the same question, and she started her response with, "Okay, first thing first, Andrea Libman's story is the best. Nothing can beat that."
God.
But we had a deal with Andrea Libman that if she decided to come to Prague again, we will, make her visit totally worth it. So I hope it's gonna happen someday, and we will have a chance to, repair all the damage that has been done.
Everyone is enjoying that story in the chat.
It is an embarrassing but beautiful story.
Yeah, last year when Ellie Ray was in Prague at Czechvestria, and we've been giving her the sightseeing tour around the city, she actually went in front of that pub and made the same photo like Andrea Libman posted on Twitter and tagged Andrea there.
Oh, that's terrible.
Seriously, that's incredible.
You're never gonna get away from this story.
Yeah, probably not.
That's incredible.
Oh. So Steam Loco?
Yeah, well, there are so many. I'm a big fan of Rainbow Dash, but any guest we can get from the main team would be lovely, I think. We're thinking about a couple of them. Maybe Katie Wiesluck, Emma Larson is always fun. Ellie Ray is always fun, but we haven't decided yet. And if I could pick a favorite, the most experience I have is probably from GalaCon, and Tabitha is always awesome. So yeah, I think that would be my favorite. But for a small convention like ours, that's probably not going to happen.
You never know.
Yeah,
Well,
Yes,
honestly
never say
know.
never.
Hypno?
Oh, right. Well, that's a difficult one because if I don't say the one we've got lined up for coming in November, Ian Hanlon, I'm going to get shot. But just to outline is reason why we pick people like Ian Hanlon, because, and I think perhaps people understand, it's not to say how big a star is, it's what value they can give, if you know what I mean, for the attendees. And we've been particularly trying to look for people who've not been over before or not usual in Europe to try and bring people over from the States. And the reason for that is I remember going to the world's smallest convention I've ever attended, which was in the United States, a tiny little one called StarQuest, where it had as many guests attending as it had attendees attending. And it had some big names, Star Trek and everything else there, hanging out the whole weekend. And the comments I had back from the individual guests often were that the people who weren't necessarily the big names had the greatest fun, interacted with people, and engaged off more with everyone else. And therefore, it's like trying to get people to, you know what I mean, the fun guests, if you know what I mean, over, I think was the one that we've been taking. So I suppose it's really like who gives us the most fun. Obviously, Ellie Ray always gives a lot of value. She's been over here quite a few times, of course. You know, we got Lee Tuck over and going to get Ellie Ray. We got Ian coming over, you know what I mean, who's also just as wild and outlandish, if you know what I mean, in engagement. And I think that's important here to try and get the people, to get them over, if you know what I mean, and try and get people over. So I think the best guest you can get is someone who's not been over to a pony convention. And I know it sounds, you've already mentioned a certain Draconis voice actor, but getting someone who's not actually presented at a pony convention to a pony convention, who is a big name, is really in Europe, is really would be the best goal, I think.
Like, yeah, I just love meeting anyone really, because I think most of the VAs and anyone that's been a part of the pony fandom, when you meet them, they just have this energy that radiates from them to you, and you don't leave a signing being like, oh, I queued for 3 hours for this. You leave the signing going, oh, this is amazing, you know. Like, I've had signings with big people at MCM and I'm like, oh, the queue. So it's really nice. And also I'm very, very grateful to GI for having their guests, because they've inspired me for my cosplay, and I'm very, very, very excited for it. I won't say what yet though. So Steam Loco, you're very popular today because it's a new convention. People haven't heard of you before. Would you invite any Dutch VAs?
Ooh, we haven't talked about it yet. That's a question that I should ask the community, I guess, if they want that, if they are known. Because as I said before, most of the people in our community just watch the show in English.
Yeah.
So, but I know HypnoHooves did have some Dutch VAs over, and they were quite popular. So yeah, maybe. Yeah.
And also, would you like a cup of tea? That is my favourite question. Would you like a cup of tea?
Cup of tea.
Yeah, I feel like I need to like tone down my Yorkshire when I ask someone if they want a cup of tea. But yeah, I want a cup of tea. But yeah. To Perry, what is the best thing in an auction that had the chance to you had a chance to sell?
Well, that's a tough one, because, well, again, like I said earlier, it's like picking your favorite child. I'm not kidding. That's like a similar feeling again, because I don't joke, you know, I don't just say that to make people feel good. Genuinely, people bring so many cool things that are all awesome in the individual ways. And I've had the great pleasure and luck, you know, to been doing this since 2012 at this point. Where does the time go? So it's hard to think just one, but I mean, the thing, especially where people get creative or make something special that you can really put your heart into. There's so many ways people do that. Again, I mentioned earlier, you know, the Fanta bottle that was a plush, you know, it was made out of Minky and everything. Stuff like that I would have never thought of. there was people literally like someone literally turned a bottle of Fanta into a 2001 Space Odyssey inspired display, where if there was a mechanism, if you have a button that opened it on the inside, and there was a Pinkie Pie inside staring in awe at the monolith, just like that. It was just like a full fancy contraption, just like inside a Fanta bottle. Like, what the heck? That's so cool. Or people making all these like just amazing plushies. We've had people make, you know, like a special quilt. There were people making just like a whole giant roll-up banner of art. There's so many things I forget. There's like one person, he submitted art like 3 times or 3 or 4 times, and he hand draws everything and hand inks everything, but in this like almost stipple like way, like little like teeny tiny details that take hours and hours to make. Ridiculous, just incredible. It's hard to pick one favorite thing. I really can't, because I'm probably forgetting, just like being put on the spot. I'm probably forgetting half the things I love to mention. But it's always when someone really says, this is something I care about, that means something to me, that I give. Whether it's something special I got signed, or something special that I made, or it's something that was created from the memories of people, like a lot of people coming together and just drawing a bunch of ponies onto a thing. It's all of those things. I love them all. I really do. So if you submit something to GalaCon, trust me, I always do my absolute damnedest to make sure your item gets the chance to shine, because it deserves it. It's always a great joy. Sorry if that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but
no, I like
impossible to pick. It really is.
Strongly agree with you though, because I think what also makes charity auctions like donations extra special is that someone donated it from the heart to go to a good cause as well. That always gets me with every single like charity auction item. This one is from Luna's Auditor. Why do you think American cons insist on multiple OCs? And what is each of your opinions on why single mascots are way better?
I can't talk. We have more than one.
Yeah.
Help! I'm clearly being accused of a horrible crime here. The crime of
multiple. Need to just stare and judge Perry. Like,
yes, the crime of multiple mascotry. Oh no! Oh.
I think it's because our conventions are usually small, so we do not need so many mascots for each part. Like, for example, BronyCon had 3 mascots, and each of those mascots was dedicated to part of the convention. And GalaCon has 3 because of the medics and staffs and these. And since we are smaller, I think we need just one. I've been actually playing around with one idea I met at the BabsCon. I think in 2006 I was there. They have a mascot and they have a villain mascot. You know, Golden Gates and Queen Quake as a opposing as an enemy. And I really like that idea, because then you can come up with the stories and, you know, some stuff that these 2 mascots can play together. They actually put a theater play about these 2 mascots fighting together against each other. Sorry. So single mascot for us, I think at this point is okay. Maybe villain in the future.
Yeah, the BabsCon mascots fighting and doing their play on the stage is always something to watch. And we were planning to go to BabsCon this year, but Corona happened. So
yeah.
I think with Waffles, for now a single mascot is enough. Maybe more will come later, but let's keep it at 1 for the first year, and we'll see what happens after that. No promises there.
Yeah, I think we just all love Britannia. She's like, maybe she can get a pet or something, but I don't think another pony mascot, really. Britannia's like, she just does everything. And yeah, I don't know. And also she goes very, very well with the other mascot of Bobby as well, because they're just kind of polar opposites, not just because Bobby's a griffin from GI. It's like you can instantly recognize 2 different conventions against each other just from looking at the mascot, whereas ponies kind of go, if that makes any sense. Hypno, what about you and Bobby? Is Bobby having a friend?
Probably not. And the reason being is that having Bobby as a recognised character is important. We might introduce one, we might not. But let's say it's having a single character to represent out. And also bear in mind that though the American cons may be bigger, sometimes the names of the characters aren't as well known as the single mascots associated with individual conventions. So if you were to look at the names of the well-known mascots and then ask for what the American ones are, if they've got several, it makes it harder to remember their names, etc. So I think single characters have a bit more impact. And I think also America tries to be very, if you look mainly, they try to go for a Pegasus, a unicorn, and sometimes an Earth pony as well as part of the list. Obviously for Griffish Isles, no need to, because we've gone for Griffin, obviously. But I think in Europe, etc., we've not got a problem just going for one, if you know what I mean here. But if we look across Europe, let's look what we've got. So Britannia is obviously clearly an Earth pony. Either that or a unicorn that's lost her horn, and or Pegasus has lost her wings.
She's an Earth pony.
But when you look across the piece here, you will find the fact that each of the cons seems to have gone with a different, you know what I mean, character, if you know what I mean. We've not all gone, for example, for unicorns.
I know.
And he's an Earth pony.
Yay.
Kenny over here. Someone actually brought me a cup of tea.
Good.
Because you asked.
Yeah. Maybe just one thing about the mascots. There are, of course, not just the mascots of our conventions. There are also smaller events like the meetups. Yeah. And I think multiple cities in Czech Republic, and I know also in Germany, have their own mascots. Like the mascot of Bratislava, or capital of Slovakia, is named Radoslava. Also Brno, Karlovy Vary, Ostrava, Olomouc, all of them have their mascots, but they're not so visible because those events are not so super big and international. But there are really a lot of these mascot ponies around, usually single ones.
Yeah. The meetup I go to, Manchester Bee Bronies, if anyone's watching from the Bee Bronies. We've got AOC that came out of someone getting scammed in a plushie, and then a really, really cheap knockoff one coming, and then we just turned it into a bee. So that's how it came, and I've forgotten the name. If someone puts a name of it in the chat, but that's how the mascot for that came about, and it was just, yeah. I won't mention who or anything unless they want to own up to it. This is going to be an interesting one because it is from Hawker Hurricane, and it is to HypnoHooves. Have you ever considered holding Griffish Isles in Yorkshire?
Okay, this needs explanation for people outside the UK. Griffish Isles is held in Manchester, which is Lancashire side of the border. You may be unaware that the rivalry between Yorkshire and Lancashire is greater rivalry than anywhere else between any two countries or any two regions probably on the planet. It's an understatement. So I think we're up 494 to 478, I think, in the cricket, just to let you know, over the years of each year playing off against each other. So I think you can understand here the level of skirmish here. Griffish Isles has based itself here in the West. Yes, we did consider holding it in Yorkshire. We are open to moving, but we decided to stick with our current area. And because, of course, for communications, where people are and coming. I know some conventions move regularly, looking at UK PonyCon in terms of venue normally, in terms of location, but we decided to stick to that. But yeah, no, we're not against moving to Yorkshire.
I mean, I am a Yorkshire lass. I lived in Yorkshire all my life until I went to university, and then now I've ended up in Manchester, and I'm like, oh no. So I won't put Lancashire in my address. I always put like Greater Manchester. That's literally what we mean by it, though. Like, yeah, Yorkshire can't beat Yorkshire.
And there is also another advantage of Griffish Isles taking place in Manchester. When you go to Griffish Isles and then you go to the Manchester Hall to just remember the Buck convention, you always meet some bronies in front of those venues. and sharing the memories of those events that happened there years ago.
I work in central Manchester, and I have to go past where book was held. I never went to book myself, but one time I saw people taking pictures of their ponies outside, and I was like, if they're still there when I get off the tram, I'm going to go and say hi. And I did, and it wasn't like I was expecting to be really awkward and like that I was stalking them, but no, it was really nice. By the way, the Manchester Bee pony is called Beatrice with a B, or Helen, whichever she fancies that day. What did you do? Steam Loco, do you want another cup of tea?
No, I'm good, thanks.
So I'm going to. Right, how long has everyone
It's just
been
my
involved?
friends messing with me. Sorry for that.
How long has everyone been helping out with the conventions that they? So, like Perry, you've spoken about you've been there from 2012. Did you say?
Yes.
So right from the start.
Yep. It started with a completely innocent question. I was a moderator on a German pony site at that point, and one of the other moderators was saying, "Oh, hey, I'm involved with this, like, we're doing this like little convention thing, and we're still looking for people. Anyone here interested?" It was like in the internal mod chat, so it was like just like a general like hangout question, and I was like, "Sure, I guess, but only a little." Yeah, right. Only a little. That sure worked out that way, didn't it? And I've been there ever since.
Jamis, what about yourself?
Organizing pony events, for me, it was the beginning in 2013 when we started to organize the program at multi-fandom conventions in Czech Republic. And then we started our own meetups, and then Czechwestria in 2014. But I've been organizing not the similar events, but some kind of events even before. So I had some experience before the pony fandom.
Hypno?
Well, the first lot I organised were Lancashire Bronies meetings, which kicked off at the end of 2016. So not the longest back in terms of pony events. And then obviously organised, helped organise the Griffish Isles following on from that. Other events beforehand, yeah, I'm really an old veteran. I'm a really old veteran for organising conventions. That's an understatement of the century. I had to remind one convention when they were celebrating their 25th anniversary that I actually got them going before that 25th anniversary. Actually, they were 27 years old. So I've been doing, unfortunately, conventions for a very long time. So various different engagements. So that's me. So yeah, but pony wise, it's relatively recent. And ironically, I got into doing it because of a statement made at the last book over someone shouldn't do it. I know it sounds a bit weird. Someone said, "Oh no, you shouldn't organize any of these things, the events, you can't do it and make fun of it." I looked at it and went, yeah, you can. We just need the right sizing and, you know what I mean? And people want to still meet up, if you know what I mean. Discouraging people doesn't always help. There are opportunities to organize and get meets going.
And Steam Loco?
I've been involved with organizing the pony meetups for 1.5 years now, so not that long. Before that, I did a lot of other things, but yeah, we're still to have our first convention, so that will be with 2.5 years of experience.
I think I'm like, by the sounds of it, I think I'm the only one that didn't really go into doing conventions from Brony meets. Before I had ever been to UK PonyCon, because I wasn't even there from the start. So I've kind of come into my convention. So I had never been to a Brony meet before, and I was a really anxious person. I didn't want to go to any meet, and then when I stumbled on UK PonyCon, I watched it like the year before I went. I was like, I wanted to go, but you know, nerves got better of me, so I didn't. And then I went in 2014, and also because I wasn't going with like, I went with one friend, and because I didn't really know anyone, I was like, right, I'll take the plunge and I'll volunteer so I get to meet people. And so I met like so many awesome people volunteer in 2014. Then I volunteered again in 2015, and then I finally got the guts to apply for the committee. I went on to be an events assistant in 2016, and then in 2017 I became the events lead, and this year for this physical con I've added on volunteer co-lead, and it's just kind of grown from there for me. So I've not been around too long. I've just seen me being tagged, and now you're stuck with it. Yeah, it is the thing with pony events, they just trap you in, and it's amazing. But UK PonyCon has definitely been a predecessor of like most of its staff. I think we have 2 staff that are admins on our forum, which are Pink Kitty Winks and Archer, who have been around from the start, but it's been around from 2014, so before Bronies. So that's why we've got collectors, and we have loads of different conventions, like different people and collectors in, and different generations and stuff. So it would have been its 17th annual year this year. So that's going to be an awkward one to write on the record books.
Always really interesting to see or hear how people started with the pony convention organizing. Really, because most of those stories I've heard, it was, you know, accidentally. Like, I did not plan to, but I suddenly start because, for example, there was a person needed for this role and nobody else wanted to do it. So you started, and suddenly it works, it goes on, and then people expect you to do the same thing on and over and over every year. And, and you cannot resist. It's really highly addictive.
Quite honestly. And also, I actually said 2014 when I meant 2004, because I'm really, really bad at like adding random numbers and things. So yeah, it's been, so UKPC has been around since 2004, and it used to be the International My Little Pony Conference or Convention, one of those 2, and then it went on to UKPC later on. But yeah, you just stumble into it, and it's great. Like, I didn't know what I want to do for a career, and now I work in the events industry, and it's all, and I like don't have any formal qualifications, but my current employers hired me because they saw how much like I'd done with UKPC, and people are always like, oh, you should hide it off your CV, you should hide it. Why? I organize an event, I raise money for charity, you know.
I was gonna say, those are real skills.
Yes.
Honestly.
Yes.
You don't need, the people you're talking to don't need to love My Little Pony to understand that you have skills with organizing people, with organizing, you know, workforces, in the sense, like people skills, getting people together, working with different languages, working internationally, negotiating contracts, raising money for charity, organizing things with charity organizations, all those things. Those are all real skills that other people get paid for. So why should you lie about that? Never do that. Those are real skills.
Yeah, I feel like we should also point out, after Perry's point, that none of us get paid to organize the events.
Not at the pony conventions themselves, no.
No.
Absolutely not. But they're real skills that exist in the real, quote unquote, real world, you know?
In the corporate world, people, they look for it, but all of us here, we're all volunteers. Yep. So we all do this just from our love of pony and wanting to help the community and stuff. Like, I get a few like water bottles, you know, from when I'm trying to do charity auction, my throat's dry, I'm having a water bottle, but that's about it with payment wise.
And it's also one of the reasons that you can give to volunteers or your helpers or co-staff if they want to try organizing people, you know, the managing staff, or have some, you know, responsibilities, they can try in convention organizer group. Because when they go then to the commercial work and they say, oh, I already have experience with this, it's highly, you know, valuable to the employees, because you already have some experience, and they see that you were able to do it even without, you know, being paid. So that means some passion that can be really useful at your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have got from Luna's Auditor, what is the biggest disaster to happen at a con you've run or attended? I'm going to just edit the question a little bit. This is disaster that you can talk about, because I don't want someone to be like, oh, this, and then get into trouble with someone else and like, you shouldn't have said that.
Here's the thing, right? That I always, when this question comes up once in a while, I always like to preface it too by saying, pony conventions in general, like fan run things, kind of exist in this position between being super awesome, but also being a disaster. And I mean that in the most loving way possible. Because here's the thing, you don't see it at professionally run events either, but in the background, there's always something going wrong because you have so many moving parts. You just don't see it. That's the real magic. The real magic isn't, we are preventing literally everything from ever going wrong, because you try, of course, you try to prevent that from happening, but you cannot succeed 100%. Don't aim for that. Instead, aim for the people's enjoyment is not impacted by it. If things are burning down behind the curtain, it doesn't matter. We can fix that. That's our problem to deal with. But if the people are having a good time, then that's okay. There's always small or medium-sized, sometimes medium-sized things going wrong in the background. Not because people are incompetent or don't care. It's because they work really hard, but you cannot be perfect at everything all the time. So I'm just saying, when we talk about these stories, you might think, wow, this all sounds like a complete disaster. What are you all even doing? It's like, no, it worked out, right? You still had a good time. So just prefacing that, there's always a small disaster going on in the background, but the real magic is you don't notice it.
Yeah, 100%. And especially, I think most of the disasters we've ever come across have either happened before the event, but like when we've arrived at a venue and the entire layout of the tables was completely wrong, and we ended up spending like 2 hours moving them ourselves, even though given how we would like it, or it's been a tech issue that no one can see, and I'm just kind of getting in my headset, you need to delay the opening ceremony because some tech's down, and I'm just there like, okay, I can tell really bad jokes and people won't realize because they're enjoying themselves. And I think that's something that anyone who is on the main stage can also help, because you can like do jokes. Like my biggest personal disaster was when my cosplay fell apart in Bristol whilst on stage, and I was just there like, and that's why you don't cosplay and help run a convention, you know. And you just play it up as jokes like that. You try and turn as Perry's saying, you turn anything that can be seen as a disaster to something positive.
That you do.
That's a nice thought.
So hey, let's get to the juicy stories, huh? The audience wants to know.
I mean, I do think ours was really boring with the tables, and also we were expecting to have like some nice picturesque windows, and then they were all blocked off on the day, and we were like, but yeah, that was probably ours, like, well, the one I've had, one of the biggest ones. I'm not going to name venues and stuff, so, and I'm not going to tell anyone in the chat either, so.
No, there's things where we're fair is fair, you know. We're not dragging anyone.
That's probably ours. Also, I've closed the questions because we've got about 10 or so minutes to go. We have got a little bit of leeway as well.
Here's the thing. The question was cons you've organized or attended. Cons I've attended, I've had the great pleasure, in hindsight, you know, we joke. I've had the great pleasure of being at the great fire of PonyCon 2012. It's not a great fire, you know, people make jokes, but BernieCon was the meme that resulted. It was a light fixture that was very slightly on fire. It was bad enough that, you know, it's unsafe, so people had to be evacuated for like an hour or so just to make sure it wasn't going to spread and we weren't at risk. After that, we could all go back in. But for that hour, everyone was like, wow, this con is literally on fire. And, you know, everyone was outside and just having a great time, just making jokes and stuff. That was definitely an experience, because it wasn't my first time in the US, but it was my second time. So for me, it was like, okay, I don't even know what's going on half the time anyway. So that was fun. And the convention I've organized, I mean, obviously I have I'm sure you've seen that meme where it's one really thick book and one really thin book. The one really thick book is disasters Perry has experienced in general at conventions. And the thin book is disasters Perry can talk about.
Yeah.
That is not a joke. There's a lot of great stories, but there's also things where you really fair is fair, and you don't want to make someone feel dragged, because in hindsight, there's really no reason to bring that kind of negative energy to it. So no, like that's my jokey way of responding to that. But thing that was a disaster that I was involved in was definitely the first GalaCon auction, because I was completely unprepared. I was told like 5 minutes in advance that I was gonna do it, because the person who was supposed to originally do it injured themselves, and I was like, "Hey Perry, you speak the best English, you do it." And I had done all the convention no-nos, right? All the convention you were supposed to shower enough, sleep enough, eat enough, drink enough. I had done none of those things. So I was on the stage, I was nervous as hell, I was constantly jittery, I was eating apples to prevent myself from passing out, because I really had low sugar. Like I'm not diabetic, but even I could feel I was getting a bit anemic. I was drinking water like crazy, because I was so nervous and dehydrated and just drinking water like no one's business. I was going to the bathroom in the middle of the panel like 5 times. It was really, really bad. My skills were terrible. Like I was really slow and insecure, and it was awful. But here's the thing. It worked out in the end. People still had a good time, even though I was objectively terrible. I'm not saying that to make myself small. I was just generally not good. It was okay in the end, but it wasn't good. See, but
I've been there.
Yeah, you've seen me be atrocious, and I hope you now see me hopefully be less atrocious in the years since. So I like using that story to tell, even when you're thrown into something you never thought you could do. I didn't think I could do that at all, but people enjoyed it, and I got to do it again and again. And it's been one of my greatest joys to do these auctions. So I like to use that story to say, hey, even something that starts out as a horrible disaster that by all objective measures wasn't well done, it can still become something great, and you can still learn something about yourself that becomes something really positive. So don't be afraid to try things and fail, because sometimes failures lead to amazing things.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, the GalaCon auctions have become legendary. I think people are attending GalaCon these days just to go to the auction, just to see what crazy shit happens this time.
You're making me blush.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you give us a disaster story. Do it.
That's a difficult one. I've seen a couple of things go wrong, but maybe
ominous.
I really do not want to mention those, because even if some things have gone wrong, people still put a lot of effort in it to make it right. And in the end, everywhere we went, every convention we had a lot of fun, and I don't want to disappoint those people by bringing up horrible stories that they're probably trying to forget. So that's that's my stand on that one.
I think I don't have any exactly that story that I would call a disaster. There were a lot of situations that were like, oh, now the whole convention is going to collapse, but it actually did not, because we worked and we somehow fixed it. It's happening, as you said, Perry, before. These hiccups are happening all the time. You cannot avoid them. And the thing is that at one point you switch from planning the convention actually to fixing the convention. Especially the first Czech Westria, I was running through the venue back and there, and I've been fixing the things all the time.
Putting out all the fires. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, before they get bigger and bigger. There were few things like the 2015 t-shirts, when there were like 6 failures of 6 different people in a row, including me, that made something worse, and it made unexpected chain of events, which resulted that we had to order much more t-shirts and then send them to people. Because somebody made the miscalculations, the person who should control it made the miscalculation too, then some laptops fails, and on and on. That was one of the things that it's happening, and you thought you already fixed it, but it's going on, and it's getting worse and worse. But I think the most like intense situation that I can call a failure was also in 2015. That was when we finished the LARP event we have on Friday, because Czechwestria is 3-day event. Friday we have LARP in the city, a live action role play. So people are crawling through the city. Then we have the pre-party and the evening, and convention in the venue is Saturday and Sunday. So after LARP ended, we met at the pre-party, and I just got an email from a VIP Slovak guest, and the voice actress wrote me that I'm sorry I cannot come tomorrow morning because my father just died, but please do not tell everyone, do not tell anyone, because we want to keep it from media until Monday. So that was really, really hard to say, you know, aloud to the audience, sorry, this guest is not coming and I cannot tell you why. But she apologized, she cannot come. And of course, on Monday, everyone found out because it was full in all the media. So that was one of the really sad moments, but you know, that's something you cannot do anything about it. It just happens and you have to deal with it the best way you can. And well, still 2015 people had a lot of fun. So that's the important thing, no matter how wrong the thing goes. And if something fails, I usually use the advice I got from Yami Bjerg, you know, just throw it away and pretend it was never meant to be there. And definitely this works.
Anything from you, Hypno?
Well, my most one is one I probably shouldn't talk about from 20 odd years ago. All I'm going to say is that actually I learned an awful lot from it. So, and the golden rule is stuff goes wrong and you can pick up and run with it. And I ran a convention, and people want to hold a 20-year renewal of this one, actually. But it was, I best describe this one. My advice to people is don't hold a convention of people who don't get on with the government in a venue where the Prime Minister's going to be talking in 4 days' time. And then you can suddenly work out all the shenanigans of everything else that went along that one. I might decide to write an entire comedy series just about that single convention and everything that happened with it. And let's just say the fact, every weird comedy sketch you could think of about trying to hide one lot of people from another had to happen at that particular convention.
Oh.
And when I mean this, I mean it was literally trying to, you know, any slapstick comedy you've ever had. And that literally did happen at that one there. So if I'd failed, you would have all heard about it on the news as the biggest bloodbath in history. But it didn't happen. I was unlucky in that one. But it was a bit disastrous for me for the convention to. But apparently, everyone enjoyed the convention. I know it sounds bad here. This is the key thing. A convention is always one stage away from disaster. Whether you enjoy it or not is a completely different matter. Most of the attendees really enjoyed it. Said, I really enjoyed drinking with that person at the bar. And I went, yeah, you don't know who that person was, do you? You know, it was literally that sort of thing, if you know what I mean.
Well, I think we have, unfortunately, run out of time. There are some extra questions, but if you've written your question and we've not answered it, I think we're all open for people PMing us to talk. We're all very, very, very happy to talk about our conventions. We all love them, or any convention experience. So
Always.
Just feel free to ask us questions. And again, thank you very much for all the questions. And thank you very much to the other panelists here for giving their time to help do this panel. So thank you to you guys. And I will say bye.
Bye. Take care. Be safe and healthy, everyone.
Yep.
Bye.